What is up, everybody? My name is Bree, if you are new here, and welcome to Simply a Breeze. Today we are finally getting back into the garden. The garden is kind of a little bit of chaos right now. My then fiance, the last you heard from me, he was my fiance. We are now married. It was very exciting. It was an absolute blast. We had a wonderful time, but we got married and then we went on our honeymoon, and so we were gone for 2 weeks. And I didn't have time to get out any other videos. I also barely had time to manage the garden. So the garden needs a little bit of maintenance, and we're gonna get some other seeds started today because the seeds that I planted when we left did nothing. They never germinated. I also don't think they got enough water, and I'm also suffering with a pill bug problem, I've noticed. And I'm wondering if the pill bugs also started eating the seeds. So we're just gonna plant new seeds. We're gonna really take care of it. I'm working on getting rid of the pill bugs with diatomaceous earth and beer traps, so that's where we're at with that. But our tomato plants, we need to trim up near the base of the plant where it's near the soil, because I have a lot of leaves and foliage touching the soil and we don't want that. So I'm gonna go ahead and here's a neighborhood kitty cat. I don't know her name, but she's cute and she's friendly. But I'm talking to you guys right now, so I'm not gonna go pet her. But anyways, we need to trim up the tomatoes. We need to make sure that they're gonna be healthy. And then we're gonna take a look at our garlic and see if our garlic can be harvested. It's flopping over for sure. So I think it's about ready. So that's what we're gonna get done today. I am in a pair of gray sweats and I'm in this. It's 75 degrees, but our backyard has the worst mosquitoes, and the mosquitoes absolutely love me. And they just eat me alive. So I'm gonna do what I can while I'm back here to make sure I don't get eaten by mosquitoes, and then once we move up front, I'll just be in a t-shirt and shorts. But that is why I'm in full sweats right now, is mosquito protection, because I just welt when I get bites. So that's all we're doing today. We're catching up on garden maintenance and garden routines, and I'll walk you through why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then I'll show you what it is that I plan on planting out for the rest of the year and for the summer. Okay, so these are pepper plants, but I have tomato plants back here behind it, and these tomato plants are vining tomato plants, or they're indeterminate. So I just need to go ahead and give them some routine trimming and maintenance, because they're getting a little unruly and I don't want that to happen. And some of these I'm just going to trellis on through, or try to anyways, and we shall see what comes of it. So some of these, they're not putting on flowers, so I'm just going to take the excess stems off. And so this guy, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if I can get a better angle for you. So this guy has this leaf, and then that stem took off. It happened while I was gone, so there's not much I can do about it. But I am gonna go ahead and trim the extra guy, and we're just gonna throw it in the yard for now. But this is what I'm talking about, is if you look down at the base, let's see. So down here, we got a bunch of stuff at the base, but there's this little sucker. I'm just gonna cut him and take him off, and then I'm gonna cut this guy because I don't want foliage down this far. I'm gonna do the same over here, and then that way everything is growing up here, not down here. Okay, so I'm gonna get that lettuce inside, get it cleaned real quick. My husband is finishing up on the weed situation, which is incredibly helpful. We're gonna lighten up, we're gonna lighten up, we're lightening up, there we go. So he's finishing up with the weeds, and then I'm gonna get the lettuce cleaned of earwigs because there's a bunch of them in there, and we're gonna see how much of the lettuce is harvestable and like salvageable and how much is unfortunately probably just gonna go into the compost. But that's okay. This was a very busy time of year for me on many different levels, so it'll be fine. Okay. So I got all the lettuce inside. There were quite a few earwigs in the lettuce, and so what I did was I plucked all the leaves off of the head. I stuck it in the sink. The sink was cleaned. I cleaned it beforehand, and I put it in cold water. I let it soak for about 5 minutes, and I was agitating the water a little bit, and every time a earwig came up, I chucked it down the disposal. And then now I drained everything, drained the water, just filled it with fresh, clean, cold water again, and I'm just gonna make sure I got as much dirt and as much of like the pollen and the stuff from the tree that was over that garden bed off of the lettuce. I'm going to dry it in the salad spinner, then I'm gonna wrap it in a clean towel and throw it into a Ziploc bag, and we will eat this lettuce probably in the next 2 days or so. But it didn't have much longer left out in the garden. It was all getting ready to bolt because it's been really, really hot here. So I'm really happy I was able to get to this today. Otherwise we may have just lost the whole rest of the lettuce harvest. There's still some lettuce in the garden that's doing okay. It's still growing and forming heads. So we'll harvest that when time comes, but I did have a big portion of lettuce that needed to be harvested. So I'll pick through some of them that look like they've got little bits of like burnt, like a burnt looking on the top. So I'll probably just peel that piece off and then throw the rest of it into the bag with the rest of the lettuce to save us from wasting as much as possible. And this is all of our lettuce from the garden. And some of these pieces look a little sad. Essentially, just whenever we go to eat this, I'll sort through the leaves that we're about to use, and I'll determine whether or not they're good or whether or not they're bad, and worth eating. Like there's a couple right here that I know just don't look great, so I'll just throw those into the compost bin right now. But everything else doesn't look terrible. We've got the burnt ends just because of how hot it's been. Lettuce does not like heat, if you didn't know. Okay. Yeah. So now we're just going to fold this in on itself. Like that. I should probably like separate this into 2 bags. I don't know if that's what I want to do right now or not, because I have a bag right here. And then I'm just going to stick this in our fridge, and we may have this with dinner tonight and possibly dinner tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to go back outside. We are going to trim up the rest of the tomatoes in the front yard now, and we're going to go look at the kale we have. We've got ginormous leaves, but right now those ginormous leaves are shading out some dill, some pepper plants, and some basil plants, and I want to harvest smaller leaves. The smaller leaves have a much better flavor. So we're just going to go ahead and trim up the really big leaves right now, and then in a few days we'll go and harvest the better sized leaves. You just don't want to harvest too much of the plant at a time. The plant will go into shock and you may kill it. But first, coffee. Okay, so these are the kale. I've got kale in there, and kale over there. So like, if you can't tell, like, look at how huge that plant is. So we're just gonna go ahead and trim some of this up. My asparagus is out of control, and we're just gonna get this trimmed up so that way we're not suffocating other things. Like this dill right here looks beautiful, it's very happy, but it's kind of being suffocated. So that's what we're gonna do next. Again, I didn't want to harvest too much, but that's a start. And then in a couple of days we'll pull a little bit more, and then it should be a little more tapered and under control, and then we'll take it from there. Now it's time to tackle these romas over here. And what I'm doing with these romas is the same thing I did with the tomatoes in the backyard, is the romas you don't want to trim too terribly much because they're a bushing plant and they kind of set all of their fruit at the same time. So what I want to do is trim near the base just to make sure I don't have things touching the soil. And I have a lot of stuff touching the soil right now. Oh, and there's bindweed. Great. You look so much better already. Yep. Oh, wow. That guy. All right, guys, we got the tomatoes pruned, we got the kale pruned, we got things cleaned up, we got the weeds taken care of. My husband's gonna go golfing, totally fine with that. The garden's my thing, I just wanted his help with the weeds. But now what I want to do is go ahead and get some more seeds started, because the seeds that I planted before we left just seem to have been a complete flop. And I think a lot of it has to do with lack of water, but also I think some bugs started eating them, and that's just a bummer. So we're gonna go ahead and get some more seeds planted, and I'm gonna be really vigilant about keeping them watered and about trying to get rid of my pill bug problem. So let me walk you through what it is that I'm planting today. So I have a bunch of zinnia flower heads that I saved from last year. And so we're gonna go ahead, and I thought they were gorgeous, that's why I saved them. So we're gonna go ahead and plant some of these, because I don't actually know where I got these seeds from, and I don't want to lose them because I thought they were stunning. So we're gonna plant some of those. So far this year we have 0 radishes. We have 0 radishes and 0 beets, and I know I can still plant them, I just have to stay vigilant. So we're gonna go ahead and get radishes and beets one more try. I don't know if I want to try carrots. All of my carrots were a complete and utter flop, so I don't know if I'm going to give them a try again or not. Maybe next year. I just don't know if I have it in me to give them a shot. We are doing okay on peas right now, but I may try peas. None. I have 2 bean sprouts. I planted over 100 beans and I have 2 bean sprouts, and that's pretty upsetting. So we're gonna get more beans planted too, but I did dig up a couple of the beans and they look like just chunks have been taken out of them. So I definitely think that they were being eaten, and that's just really unfortunate. And then I definitely just want to plant a bunch of flowers, because I currently only have a Cosmo and some nasturtiums, and I want zinnias, I want calendula. I don't know if it's too late to do borage. I want marigolds. We don't have any marigolds growing right now. How long does it take borage? 60 days. We could probably plant some more borage. We can plant borage, get some of that growing. I think I have a gazania growing. I don't know if any of my straw flowers transplanted well. I may do some bachelor buttons, some more cosmos. And then I have some wildflowers. I just don't know if I want to plant them yet or not, or if I want to put them in pots. But if I'm going to put them in pots, I need to get more soil. I don't have soil for them. But I definitely want zinnias. And I think I went through all of my zinnia seeds that were the really pretty colors. But I want marigolds, I want zinnias, I want a couple more cosmos because only one of my cosmo plants survived. None of my zinnia plants lived when I transplanted them. So it's just been a really rough year. Granted, last year was my first year with a big garden. The year before that, all I grew was tomatoes and beans and basil. So nothing crazy. Oh, and butternut squash. But this is my second year on the big garden. There were bound to be some flops. You're not always going to succeed at everything. And on top of that, with all the other things that I had going on at the time when I was transplanting, it just really wasn't feasible, and I gotta give myself a little bit of grace and just accept that it is what it is. But we're still gonna give it a shot. We're gonna try. So that's what we're gonna do next, is we're gonna go ahead and get some flowers planted, some more veg planted, and see what happens. And we may look at our garlic. I may potentially harvest garlic. So we'll see what happens. We are harvesting our garlic, and it smells absolutely amazing. All of my Softneck varieties, the necks have started to fall. 4 of the leaves on the outside have died back. So there are signs that all of the garlic is ready to be harvested, and today's the day we're going to do it. I've already been outside doing a whole bunch of other yard work, and so I figured today's the day we're getting the garlic done, and I'm super excited. Last year I planted garlic and it was an utter complete flop. All of my garlic cloves were about the size of my pinky nail, and that's pretty useless. So today we're gonna actually have a decent harvest. Like, look at this bulb right here. That's a beautiful garlic head. And so I feel really accomplished. So today we're harvesting garlic, and I'll show you how I intend to dry them today as well. So let's get digging in the dirt. So not all of my garlic heads did super well. Like, but this one right here is huge. But we got a couple small ones, but we're still winning. This is winning for me. Okay, so here's the harvest. This is all a Softneck variety. I think I got 2 different Softneck varieties. I have the receipt somewhere, but I know one of them is Inchelium red, and I know that because I've got some like red looking garlic. I have one that's really red. It's somewhere in here. So I do have some Inchelium red, and then these are all of my Hardnecks. I did not plant a lot of Hardneck varieties just because I wanted to predominantly braid my garlic, but these are all of the Hardnecks, and I think I only got 1 variety of Hardneck, and so that turned out great. And now I have this whole half of this bed to plant an entirely different crop, and I think I'm gonna do this whole thing with beans. We'll see how I'm feeling, but now let's go ahead and take these inside, and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do to cure them. Okay, so what I'm going to do to dry our garlic is we've got this herb tiered like drying rack type thing, and that's exactly what I'm going to use for the garlic. We don't need anything fancy. There's enough airflow down here because like the furnace is down here. It's not crazy hot down here. It's probably in like the low 60s, So it's like a decent temperature, and it's usually on the darker side because we aren't down here a whole lot. I'm gonna go ahead and get the garlic kind of spaced out and laid out through here, and it's gonna stay here for the next 3 to 4 weeks. And then after that, we can go ahead and braid the soft neck garlic, or I may just go ahead and process it all, but it's gonna stay stored down here until I know what I want to do with it. So I did get a couple of garlic, a decent amount of garlic heads that were on the smaller side, but I did get a couple, and they are just massive heads of garlic. Like, they've got some weight to them, and I'm really excited about that. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna let this stay here for about the next 3 to 4 weeks. We'll come and check on it, make sure everything's looking good, no mold is growing on it. And I may go ahead, I have a little fan, I may put a little fan on it just to really help make sure the air is flowing and it's circulating and everything dries out properly. Right now what I'm thinking I'm gonna do with these is the Hardneck varieties, which are down on the bottom. I'm probably gonna process them right away. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna puree them and then turn them into little like pucks type deal. And then toss them in the freezer. I actually don't enjoy peeling and chopping garlic. I love the smell and the taste and the flavor of garlic. I don't enjoy the act of processing the garlic to get there. So if I can already have it ready to go, it's gonna be way more enjoyable, and I may find that I use garlic, fresh garlic, way more often instead of just a powdered garlic. The soft necks, I want to braid a few just to do it, because it just sounds really cool to me, and it'll store down here because again our basement is nice and cool. But I will take you guys along on that journey as I do it. But this is our garlic harvest for 2024. 2023, I ended up with probably this much garlic on this top rack, and all of the bulbs were smaller than this tiny little guy. Like, this guy is really dinky. Like, you saw some of those were as big as like the palm of my hand, and this guy, like, some of the cloves in here look semi-decent, which is great. But all of the cloves from last year's harvest were just, they were too small to do much with. Oh, and here, this is what I wanted to show you. So you see this like really pretty like purpling of the garlic? This is Inchelium red. And so I grew quite a few of these. I don't know if this guy in particular was ready or if he just didn't dry out enough. So we'll see what he looks like after a couple of weeks. Now that the garlic has been harvested, we have this whole space right here to go ahead and plant. And because I didn't have a very good time with seeds I planted a couple weeks ago, we're just gonna plant new seeds and we're gonna start over and we're gonna call it a day. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm gonna work some blood meal into the soil because garlic is a heavy feeder. So I'm gonna work some blood meal into the soil, and then I think I want this whole thing to be beans. I just want nothing but beans here, and I think they're gonna be pretty happy. And then I may work in some radishes and beets on the front end of this as well. So I think that's the plan, and then I'll work in some flowers sporadically. So that's what we're doing. So the beans that I'm going to be planting are a jade green bean and a yellow bush bean. So I put my beans in here. I'm gonna add a little bit of water. I put some inoculant in here, which basically gives the beans a good nitrogen boost, and then we're gonna plant them. And I'm actually gonna lay some trenches in here so I can make sure these beans get covered. So let me go get these wet. Okay. And we will just let those soak for a minute while I get this all trenched up. Just so you know, I just did some high intensity bean planting, and there wasn't any particular method other than sprinkle and go. Okay, so I'm going to cover all of this up. Awesome, we have beans, so hopefully these all germinate. I'll give them a really good soak, and we'll see what happens. Okay, next is I want a couple of zinnias. I got some sunset colored zinnias from last year. These are seeds I saved. So we're just gonna get a couple of seeds out, and we're gonna see if they germinate or not. I'm gonna put some of these seeds in here. We're gonna space them out, and then we're gonna cover them back up, and we'll see if they germinate. And then I've got some open spots right here in between these sets of tomatoes. Okay, and then right here in this front, I'm gonna see if I can get radishes to take. So I think before we left for our wedding, I think I planted beets and radishes and cucumbers and butternut squash. Nothing came up. So we're gonna try again and we're gonna see what happens. Well, let me go get my cucumber seeds. Your lettuce. So I'm wondering if these seeds were old, but I don't know. We're just gonna how deep do I need to plant you? An inch. Okay. We'll just so I planted like 6-7 seeds right there. That way if none of these germinate, I'll just say that this whole seed packet is old and they'll go in the compost, and I'll start a new set of seeds. I do still have time to start seeds if these don't germinate in the next week. I'm going to do some calendula up here. Let's open this guy up. How deep? Okay. So we're just going to gonna rough up this soil. We're gonna try carrots. I'm going for it. I'm not, these are Nance carrots. We're gonna give them a shot. Okay, so this Cosmo died. We'll just lay it there. So we're gonna go ahead we're going to plant a couple more nasturtiums. We're going to plant them. And we'll see if those germinate. I think we're going to call it. We're going to call it a day. We're going to water everything. And I think I'm just going to be done. And I'm going to think on what I want to put over here and what I want to put at the other end of the bed. And then there's still a portion over there next to the zucchini that's a little bare right now, so I'll think on it and figure out what it is that we want to grow there. So, but I think I'm done. I think I'm done for the day. We did a lot. We got a lot of things done, so I feel very, very accomplished. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this content, if gardening is your thing, if you're new to gardening, you're not alone. I'm new to gardening, but I do actually enjoy it. This is where I get some of my exercise right now. I get my sunshine, and it's just absolutely glorious. So if you enjoyed this, please consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel if you like this kind of stuff. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.